Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Spanish Football Podcast. I'm Phil Kitromilides, joined as ever by Sid Lowe. Hello, Sydney.
Good morning, Philip.
You're back home.
I am, yes.
Yes.
It's been a while. Do you know what? Because of the Club World Cup and then a bit of being in
That was
London.
a while ago.
And then a bit of... I think I've probably only been in this house for something like 6 days in the last 2 months or something.
We certainly haven't
maybe more than that. Hang on,
this house for a long time. Yeah.
When was the Club World Cup? You're right. That was a long time ago. Anyway,
yeah.
Yes, I'm properly back. It's quite depressing.
Good. Well, no, I find it reassuring to see that you're back in your study. There are books behind you, and all is right with the world. Obviously, it's the international break. We didn't have any La Liga this weekend, but we did have Spain playing. We did a podcast on Friday to reflect on their 3-0 victory over Bulgaria. And they played last night in their second World Cup qualifier, and they absolutely spanked, demolished, destroyed, eviscerated Turkey by 6-0 in a game which finished 6-0. They could have scored 10 or 11. It was a really, really big performance. Sid, as good as this performance was, and it was fantastic, I've actually been struck by the level of sort of euphoria that this has sparked here in Spain, certainly amongst the media. I heard people yesterday referring to it as, you know, a historic performance, a game which will never be forgotten by anybody who witnessed it. And this is a team that's played pretty well.
Yeah.
Some pretty big results over the last 10 or 15 years. And yet it felt last night, certainly the way it was being reported on, that this was a really, really big performance and result. Where do you stand on how we should be evaluating what we saw last night?
Shall we rewind to our last podcast, 4 days ago, in which I was trying very hard to say, look, I think Bulgaria really aren't very good. I think what Spain did against Bulgaria needs to be put into that context, because I think they were playing against an opponent that just wasn't good enough. Again, I'm in a position where I don't know how to judge how good Turkey are, but they're supposed to be good. Yeah. This isn't supposed to happen to them. You know, maybe this happens to Bulgaria. It's supposed to happen. It's not supposed to happen to Turkey. And I thought Spain were absolutely fantastic. Now, it is true that we've seen before occasions where Spain have played phenomenally well. I was there in an empty stadium, and indeed in a hotel room that looked down onto an empty stadium, when Spain scored 6 against Germany at La Cartuja, and were absolutely phenomenal. And I think we all thought at that point, you know, this is the beginning of something extraordinary.
That was a while ago, wasn't it?
And that was a while ago.
2017?
Yeah, I think it was Lopetegui's team. So, and of course, now obviously there's the context of that team going to the World Cup in Russia and Lopetegui being sacked 2 days before they started. And so it's, you know, maybe that team would have gone on and been brilliant. I think it was Lopetegui team anyway. I'm worried now that I might have got that wrong. Remember them being brilliant against Italy with Isco playing fantastically well. You know, there's lots of times when we thought it was happening and it doesn't, and you can have a one-off good game. Now the counter argument to that is that this is a team that's just won the European Championships the way they won it. And I genuinely think that we've never seen a European champion be that good in terms of how difficult were the teams you had to play, and how effectively did you get through them. Only really against Germany were they ever in trouble. Even in the final against England, when they had to score with 7 minutes to go or 6 minutes to go, they've been the better team comfortably throughout that. They beat 4 world champions en route. They played really, really good football all the way through. They've managed to mix up a little bit some of those traditional qualities of Spain with something a little bit more direct. The introduction, obviously, of Lamine Yamal, but also of Nico Williams, changes the way that they play a little bit, because they have wingers that go at you, not entirely in straight lines, but they go at you and beyond you. And last night, I thought, was a brilliant combination of all of those things. I think as well, maybe if we're trying to put this in a historic context, it's their second biggest away win ever. The first is against Liechtenstein. Now, that really is an opponent where it doesn't count. Sorry if you're from Liechtenstein, anyone. And so I think it's, people are entitled to feel very, very excited about this. Let me give you a really simple and probably meaningless way of framing this. I have to write about this today. I was always going to have to write about this today. It's not because they won. The email from my editor on Friday of last week said, "Can you do a piece on Monday taking in both of the Spain games? And, you know, are they going to win the World Cup?" I just thought, what a silly question. And this morning I'm thinking the answer to that question is yes, they are.
They are going to win the World Cup.
Yeah. Easily. Of course, not easily. Now, they probably won't still. Probably something will happen. Only one team can win the World Cup. All sorts of weird things happen. But there isn't a team, I don't think. And I say this with the nervousness of saying it because I'm not watching absolutely every international team in the world. But there isn't a team that's playing like this, I think.
Well, you can't possibly know that because we're not watching all the teams.
No, exactly.
Right? I mean,
But you're looking at results. You're seeing highlights from games.
Yeah.
You're picking up on reports of everyone. Nobody, who else anywhere is getting excited? Brazil are a shambles.
Yeah.
Argentina, you have that doubt. Go on, sorry.
Portugal did beat Spain in the Nations League.
Yes, they did. Yeah. And Spain have come from, I mean, that's one way of putting it. Spain have come from a European Championship win where they were the best comfortably, a Nations League final, and now obviously heading into the World Cup. Does it mean they're going to win it? No, not necessarily. And I think you're right. But by the way, I think Portugal have an incredibly strong squad. I always find Portugal to be a miracle. I don't quite know how they do it in terms of population. But Spain look really, really good indeed. And I suppose one way of framing it is if we talk about the team that won the European Championships and we ask ourselves, in what way are they better? I think we can pick up on 2 or 3 really tangible ways in which they could be better than they were at the Euros.
Okay, go on.
Well, Lamine Yamal is older.
Yes.
I also think, and playing with more consistency, I also think if you look at him, he's physically better than he was. I think
he's bigger.
Yes. But you saw last night, I was really struck by this. A few times last night where he was beating players through more basic things than normal. Through knocking it past them and running beyond them and having big shoulders and nudging them off the ball and being able to go through them. And that's not really something we'd seen from him before. So there's that. I think there's the shifting role of Pedri and the centrality of what he's doing, which I think is potentially really important. I personally think it's much too early for me to get too excited about this, but I am impressed. I think the role of Dean Howson might turn out to be really important. Someone who can bring the ball out, who can step into midfield, that when you play really deep teams, as happened last night, effectively steps into midfield and allows all the midfielders to then take a step further on as well, and to really box the opposition in. Now, could Spain end up being caught because he's stepping forward? Yeah, maybe, but it's there. And so, there are 3 very basic, tangible things that I think put them in an even better position than 18 months ago.
Let's pick up on the Pedri thing because last night was an exceptional performance from the magician from the Canary Islands. He scored twice. It wasn't just the goals, though. He was really the heartbeat of this team. And it does help with him playing in his best position. And his best position is not at number 10 anymore. We saw it last year with Barcelona playing a little bit further back, being able to control matches. It's true that in theory, if he does play further back, then he's not as close to the penalty area, which is where he can cause damage. He's got a fantastic shot. We saw that last night. We saw it for Barcelona on match day 2 when he scored against Levante from the edge of the area as well. He's got that in his locker, but he's so able to control matches from a little bit further back that I think that change in position, and not just him playing in a different position, but it means that someone else is playing where he was further forward. And last night it was Mikel Merino who scored a hat-trick, who seems very effective in that position, but you've got options. You've got Dani Olmo. Where does Fabian Ruiz play in this team as well? So Pedri's shift back has helped him, but I think it's helped the team as well.
I think that's absolutely right. And last night we saw it, as you say, in particular with Mikel Merino. It'd be easy to pick up on his stats, but 3 goals, you can't ignore 3 goals. I think there's more than that. I think it's Merino's ability to be everywhere. So to be at the top of the pitch, but when he's needed to be doing some of those covering runs as well. I think there's also something else to be said about Pedri's role, which is to say that, you talk about he's good close to the area. He's good at providing that final pass. And actually recently we're seeing a Pedri who shoots more often.
And I think he's been told to. Yeah,
I think he probably has. And I think we saw a stat this morning. I think I'm right in saying it's 4 of his last 5 goals to come from outside the area, or maybe it's 3 of only 4, which perhaps is not quite the step again. But again, it's a bit of a step. Now, the point I'm trying to make is that those goals have all come from the deeper position. So although you're playing him further back, you're not denying the opportunity for him to do that. And I think this is the important point here for me, is that Pedri's deeper role doesn't mean he's deep all the time. That's just the starting point of what he does. And so I think what's really happening is it's changing the beginning of the sequences he's involved in. Take, for example, the second goal yesterday, which was 75 seconds of Spain moving the ball all over the pitch, Pedri being involved at a deeper point, at a midpoint, and at a higher point throughout that move. And so it's not that Pedri kind of gets the ball in deep midfield, like Busquets would once have done, plays it to someone and everyone else gets on with it. Pedri is the thread that runs through a lot of these moves. And so whereas before, if Pedri's at number 10, it might be that he doesn't get involved as much. Why? Because he's waiting for the ball to come to him. What's happening now, because he's at the start of those moves, he's not waiting for the ball to come to him because it comes to him early. but nor is he then, having played his pass, waiting to see what everyone else does with it. He's then joining it. And I wonder if, and I don't know, and I'd love someone with a proper tactical and analytical eye to kind of explain this to me. In fact, I'm going to ask some people about this. I wonder whether Howson's ability to step up and occupy the space that Pedri has just been in allows Pedri to keep stepping. If you see what I mean, it allows the chains, the links in the chain to keep moving forward. If you see what I mean, so the Pedri is always in the move. It's not that Pedri's at the bottom and then it's gone. It's that Pedri's at the bottom, then in the middle, and then at the top. And so I think, of course, there's a risk in that, and there's a risk in maybe Pedri following the move through and then being turned, and the move goes and it's behind him and he gets caught out. Yes, there's that risk, but that's in theory what Zubimendi's there for, and also what Howson is there for, stepping into. So I think it's really exciting, and you know, I think what Flick has done potentially for the Spanish national team is really quite important in finding that deeper role for Pedri, which doesn't deny him the chance to play an attacking role as well, because it's not deep role only.
The starting 11 for this game was the same starting 11 that started 3 days before in Bulgaria. It's not usual for a manager to keep the same 11 for 2 games in the space of 3 days. Obviously, it was Unai Simon in goal, and across the back four, Pedro Porro, Dean Howson, Lenormand and Cucurella. Midfield, Zubimendi alongside Pedri, with Mikel Merino just ahead of him, Nico Williams, Lamine and Oyarzabal. That looks to be potentially Spain's strongest starting 11, with the 2 question marks over Pedro Porro / Dani Carvajal and Zubimendi / Rodri. Apart from that, and also, well, I guess we could add the, Fabian Ruiz as well. He usually tends to play at some point. But yeah, there seems to be a core there that I think the manager likes, wants, and certainly the front 3 seems to be very much on paper. We know that it's going to be those 3. I wanted to ask you about Rodri. He came on for the last few minutes of this game and against Bulgaria as well. Got the feeling that he's not quite there yet, but obviously when he's 100% fit and fully back and in competitive rhythm, as they say in Spanish, he should start ahead of Martin Zubimendi, but now he's got competition with Zubimendi providing pretty stiff composition and showing that he can be very strong in that position.
Yeah, I mean, to use De La Fuente's own line when he was asked about Rodri's injury, he said, "Look, I've got the best central midfielder in the world, but luckily I've also got the second best, which is Zubimendi." And you're right. I think Rodri doesn't look quite there yet. I think it may well be that this takes longer than we anticipate. It may well be that it takes not just him to be there, but maybe Manchester City to be back at a level that enables him to kind of fully.
Well, that might not happen for a while.
Well, exactly. Well, I mean, and that's genuinely important. This is a contextual part of it. This is a contextual part of it that might impact upon the way that he plays and the way he's able to play and his development. And those things do play a part. And talking to people who've had ACL problems before, that quite often there's a really big difference between when you come back and when you're really back. And it can be 5, 6, even 7 months sometimes before you're fully on that cycle again. And I suppose the good news is how well Zubimendi has been playing with Spain. I'm yet to, obviously, all of us are yet to really know exactly how well that will fit with Arsenal and how much continuity he'll get there and how well he'll play and how much of
he's done pretty well so far with him.
Yeah, how much of an impact that will have on him. But I mean, it's a mad thing to say, but the Ballon d'Or winner being absent at the moment doesn't seem to matter for Spain, and that's a pretty good position to be in.
And right back,
I think it will be Carvajal, but I'm not 100% certain about that. Again, it will depend on what kind of condition he's in. I think we talked about this a little bit in the last podcast. I think Carvajal gives you some characteristics that maybe Porro doesn't, as much off the pitch as on it, although Porro has some of those. And I suppose if you're going to point out at anyone who you felt was slightly got at a little bit yesterday, it was Porro, because what little Turkey did was on that side. Yeah. But I think that would be very, very nitpickety to do that. But I suppose you have to, and particularly if you're a manager analysing your team, you have to look at all those details. But I think you're right. I think that it probably will be Carvajal. But bear in mind, Carvajal, correct me if I'm wrong, is 32 and has just come off the back of an injury. Or maybe 30. Is he older than that even? And just come off an injury. So it may well be that it's still Pedro Porro by the time the World Cup comes around.
Yes. Confirmation that he's 33. Yes.
33. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Also, shout out to Fruity George. Jorge Frutos, Rayo Vallecano's winger / forward, who made his debut for Spain. And there's a brilliant video. Go and check out our social media on X. We've posted it there at TSF _podcast of basically the whole of his hometown. It's a small village in Segovia where 92 people live. His parents own a bar, and everybody was crammed into this bar last night watching Jorge de Frutos make his Spain debut. So shout out to Fruity George, who came on in the second half and made his debut. Go and check that video out. La Liga is back this week, so why not join us over at patreon.com/TSFP. Membership starts at just €4.75 a month. As always this week, patrons are going to be getting the newsletter, the Q&A podcast, and the bonus podcast. Plus, there's the Discord and the WhatsApp community. And for some of our top-tier patrons, we've got the TSFP diary. Last week, Sid was talking about what it's like to cover the Spain national team from a journalist perspective. This week, the diary is going to cover Al's trip to San Sebastian for Real Sociedad versus Real Madrid. So expect football chat, but also lots of food.
Yeah,
and
it would just be the sound of Al in a Pincho bar.
Yes,
just going through these incredible constructions nailed to bread with little. Fantastic.
So come and join us. Patreon.com/TSFP. Sydney, I wanted to pick up on something, looking through the stories in the papers this morning, trying to find interesting stuff for us to discuss on the podcast, given that it is international break, so we don't have La Liga matches to talk about. There is a La Liga match that I do want to talk about, and it's the one that is supposed to take place in Miami, Villarreal against Barcelona in December. We had the president of the Players Union who's been speaking, and he's been in the papers today, David Aganzo, saying and bemoaning the lack of communication with La Liga, saying, we don't know anything about this game. We literally have had no communication. We don't know what's going on. They've told us nothing. We know La Liga really wants to make this happen. We know that Javier Tebas has been trying to make this happen for a long time. They think that it's important for the growth of the league to take it away. And we have also discussed how we feel about it on a sort of emotional and psychological and conceptual level. I just want to sort of ask you, Sid, do we think this is going to happen? This is going to happen. And the league union, the Players Union, they don't really have the power to make it not happen, or do they?
Right. Well, I mean, that was the first part of the answer that I wanted to give you. If the blocking of this game depends on the Players Union, on the AFE, and on David Aganzo, then it will happen. Because when you hear David Aganzo and he's talking about the lack of communication and so on, and he's talking about that, players haven't been consulted. Whenever you hear him, I don't know about you, but I always feel that he's very lukewarm. You never really feel like this is someone who's actually going to stand up for this, that's actually got a clear position on it. It may well be that one of the reasons for that is actually not all of his players agree. That some of them may well be in favour of it. We all assume that players don't want to go to Miami and so on. But obviously, bear in mind that only 2 teams go. A lot of players probably don't really care. A lot of players probably consider that, well, we won't go in the end. And they may well feel that actually they may well have been through some of the arguments and think that this generates the kind of money that in the end is good for us. And essentially we earn this money. Who was it the other day that was talking about it? Was it Inigo Perez, I think, the Rayo manager, saying that, we complain about these things, but so long as we're on that wheel and we're part of who benefits from the generation of money, we kind of can't complain too much. Now, I think, to be honest, that's a little bit of a cop-out. I must admit, I think that's a little bit of a cop-out from a manager who, by the way, I admire enormously and I think always speaks really well, really reasonably. Anyway, sorry, the point I was making really was that I don't think that if it's down to the Players Union, this will go ahead. I think there's absolutely no way they will block it. I don't think that they will have the power to do so. I think you might even get a point at which there's some threat of a strike, but it won't happen. I think really the only way this gets stopped now is if somehow UEFA intervene and prevent it. Now, we know that FIFA won't prevent it because Gianni Infantino is in favour of it. But it wouldn't amaze me if UEFA tried. And I think Feferin is more likely to be opposed to it and more likely to put his foot down. But he may well feel as well that he doesn't have the jurisdiction to entirely do that.
I think UEFA are looking at it this week. I think they've got a meeting on Thursday. Exactly. So watch this space, because obviously it's a really big thing. A lot of our listeners are in the USA as well. So this is a big thing for them. It's a big thing on a sort of, like I said, intrinsic conceptual level for Spanish football as well, whether or not this match actually happens and what it means.
And also the knock-on effect. So you talk about the impact for Spanish football. if this works, there will be other leagues who think, okay, this is worth trying, or other competition. Now, obviously, the Spanish Super Cup is already in Saudi Arabia. The Italian Super Cup, I think I'm right in saying, is also Saudi Arabia, or is it Abu Dhabi? I think it's Saudi Arabia. So, it's the beginning of something. Now, what will be interesting from my point of view? Do you know what the first thing I thought? Actually, when I first heard, I can't remember the exact line now, but there was a phrase from Seferin which basically said, we're opposed to this. I think the phrase was European football should be played in Europe. I think that was the phrase.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I thought when I heard that phrase wasn't, that means maybe the La Liga game won't happen there. The first thing I thought was, so the Champions League final isn't going abroad then. Because to be perfectly honest with you, I have been convinced for a long time that we're not that far off a Champions League final being played in New York or Los Angeles or whatever. Now, obviously, we can go on about this for ages, and I'm not going to now because we've done it before. And it does propose all sorts of kind of conceptual and, if you like, almost, I don't know if moral's quite the right word. That makes it sound far too overblown. But it poses some pretty significant questions, which I actually think mostly haven't been addressed by the people involved. One very brief thing to say. There was a suggestion from the Villarreal owner that, well, look, we will get all of our fans out of there, all of them.
Yes.
So, okay. I would love them to call your bluff. I would love you to be in a position where suddenly you've got to house 25,000 people, find plane seats and tickets for 25,000 people.
Yeah. No, he literally said that we will pay for all flights. Yeah, but he didn't say that they pay for the actual expenses, but he said flights and tickets. We'll pay for it.
Yeah, I would absolutely love those fans to call their bluff.
By the way, Serie A are looking to take a game to Australia in February, so there are other leagues that are looking at this as well.
At least it's nice and local.
Yes. Sid, this weekend, there's football this weekend. La Liga's back. Yay! Big game on Sunday night. Yay! Barcelona against Valencia. Yay! Where's it being played?
Miami.
No, we don't know.
I mean, they could kill two birds with one stone, couldn't they? If they've been really sharp and said, right, we don't know for sure where we can play this. Let's go to Miami. Buy ourselves a bit of time.
There's still time. But yes, just going back on a sort of serious level, Barcelona against Valencia this weekend. Barcelona's first home match of the season. They asked the league to play their first 3 games away so they could finish the Camp Nou. It's not finished. They haven't got the licenses yet. It's Monday. The game's on Sunday. We don't know where the match is going to be played, Sid.
No, we don't. There was a visit last week. I don't know what you would call this, a kind of a technical visit from things like the emergency services, the fire service, the council construction. I don't know what you would call this, analytical team or whatever the phrase would be, to do it. They went last week, and the idea, of course, was they go away, they provide a report, they confirm whether it can be done. But then there's another step after that. So that doesn't necessarily guarantee it. And so it's not impossible that it does get played at the Camp Nou. But time is ticking, and these kind of processes tend to take a long time. These kind of bureaucratic processes tend not to be quick. If they don't play at home, it looks like the solution will be the training ground. The problem is that doesn't fulfill some of the La Liga criteria in terms of minimum capacity. You're laughing. Can you tell me the figures? I think it's 6,000 is what they've got, and they need to get to 9,000.
No, I'm laughing, Sid, because the game's in 6 days, and we're sitting here talking about we don't know where it is. That's what I'm laughing at.
Sorry, I thought right, yeah. And so if they were to do that, then they would have another race against time, which is to get temporary standing up in time to be able to comply with that criteria as well. So it's not great. It's not great. I mean, there's a little bit of me in this. But I can understand why you push as late as you possibly can, and why you try and get this done, and why you might think that you're going to hit deadlines and you don't. But it seems to me that the thing I don't really understand it was why there's not already an absolutely clear-cut plan B in place, or why in fact someone hasn't just bitten the bullet and said, okay, there's a risk we don't make it to this game, so let's just draw a line under and say we haven't made it to this game. Let's get it fixed and sorted now, whether it's wherever it's a Cornellà. I think I'm right in saying that Montjuic they can't because there's a concert over the weekend. I can't remember who it is now.
That's the big problem, yes.
That's the big one.
That's why they're not playing it at Montjuic, because there's a concert there that can't be moved. It can't be moved indoors because the concert has some kind of light flames or something or other. So yeah, it has to be
Yes.
Camp Montjuic.
Yeah, because obviously the alternatives, for those who don't know Barcelona, the Palau is alongside the stadium. So in theory, maybe you could have taken the concert indoors. Although presumably the amount of people who can get in the Palau is much lower than the stadium as well. So what are you doing what you're doing with all those people? Anyway, the point for me in a way
should be a plan B.
Is that, well, and it should, to be honest, not just there should be a plan B. I mean, it's easy for me to talk from the outside when I'm not involved in this, and I'm sure they have a plan B in place in case. But for me, it's not just that there should be a plan B; it should already have been activated. We shouldn't be this late.
Maybe it's time to implement that plan B now.
Yeah, that's exactly that. That, you know, and you say, look, yes, we wanted to play there. Yes, it would have been great, but you know what? It hasn't happened. So let's get on with it. Because how late do you leave this?
Well, as late as possible, Sid. You know, this is how we do it here.
Because you've got to sell tickets, by the way.
Yeah.
And put people in seats.
Yeah.
And the seating plan in one stadium is not the same as another.
More on this later in the week, I guess. I mean, it's Monday. The game's on Sunday. Hopefully we'll get some kind of
touch wood. This gets cleared and it's at the Camp Nou and everything that was originally set up and it gets done. Brilliant. And it's a homecoming of sorts with, 27 or 28,000, I think is the plan for the original game. And it's great. And hopefully that's what will happen. But it's a bit bizarre to be in this position, as you say, this late in the day.
Earlier on in the podcast, Sid, I think you might have insulted our listeners in the beautiful, magnificent Principality of Liechtenstein by suggesting that they should absolutely get battered by Spain. We had a little check, and we haven't had any. Haven't had any downloads in Liechtenstein.
So hooray! I can say what I like about Liechtenstein. What a smelly place.
We have. I think it's quite the opposite, Sid.
Exactly. I have absolutely no idea.
Pristine and well-heeled place anywhere in Europe. Just we have had one download in Uzbekistan, Macau, Guadeloupe, Cape Verde, and the autonomous Finnish region, where a Swedish-speaking region of Finland, the Åland Islands. So if you are one download in any of those places, you win a bonus prize. Contact us for the bonus prize. And we will facilitate it with you. The bonus prizes are love and respect, but you know,
can we put that in an envelope and post it to them?
Contact us for more of that. Listen, we're gonna leave it there. Not before I tell you what happened in the Segunda this week. There was quite a game in Almeria yesterday. Almeria were 2-0 up and absolutely cruising against Racing Santander, but then they got a man sent off. They ended up losing 3-2. So Racing are top of the table. They're the only team with 12 points from 4 games so far. So Racing doing very, very well. I seem to remember they were absolutely flying at the start of last season as well, and it all fell apart. But they've made another good start. Sporting a second. They lost the big match of the weekend against Deportivo La Coruña 1-0. It was an 89th minute winner from Depor. It was quite a hit as well. And Cadiz drew 3-3 at Real Sociedad B. Malaga drew 2-2 in the Andaluz derby with Granada. This week, La Liga is back. Match day 4, some big games. You've got Real Sociedad against Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid against Villarreal, and Barcelona against Valencia, as mentioned previously. So lots for us to look forward to. We'll preview those matches and more on the preview podcast on Friday. We'll keep you ticking over with loads of content during the week as well. Q&A podcast at patreon.com/TSFP tomorrow, and a bonus podcast as well. So come and be a patron. There's loads of content there. If you don't want to be a patron, that's all right, but make sure you listen to the Friday pod. We'll be back later on in the week, amigos. We'll speak to you then. Adios.
Cheerio.